Thanks everybody for coming out to Pitch Day, February 22nd, 2023. Pitch Day for 100K. It's a great day to pitch. It's my favorite day of the week. I think we should just stop calling it Wednesday, and every other week just call it Pitch Day instead. Not sure anybody else would know what we talk about, but at least we would know what we talk about. Today we're going to hear from Marcus with Adaract, and congratulations, because on average we screen probably 15 or 20 companies for every one that is approved to pitch. So it's a little bit of a big deal to get approved and get out here in front of our groups. Startup NV is Nevada's statewide nonprofit startup accelerator and incubator. We operate five programs for entrepreneurs or founders, if you prefer, and four for-profit investment funds. Our nonprofit is supported by government grants and corporate sponsors in the short term, and over the long term by accelerator companies who pledge a teeny tiny amount of their stock to the nonprofit, and our investors who donate 5% of the profits, also called a carry, back to the nonprofit. We hope that these small amounts will add to become large amounts over time, and we'll have a big foundation that can carry on our work for many, many decades into the future. We run Pitch Day for 100K every other Wednesday, and companies come to pitch both for the Q&A that they get, and they do get a bunch of that, and entry into our accelerator program, which comes with an investment from Fund NV, our pre-seed fund, and that's added to by our investor syndicate. On average, we've invested about $124,000 every time Fund NV has made an investment. Plus, we get a matching amount from Nevada's SSBCI program. We've made 17 direct investments since 2021. The latest one was on January 30th of this year, so just a couple of weeks ago. Those investments have ranged from $50,000 on the low end to $1.7 million on the high end. So there's a lot of money being deployed. And now for the legal disclaimer. The founders pitching today for investment from our pitching for investment from our SEC-approved venture capital fund and our accredited investor syndicate. The pitches today are directed to our investors. We do invite the whole community to attend for educational purposes like Shark Tank. The educational component is critical to our economic development mission in Nevada. So once again, the pitches today are not a general solicitation for investment. For information about how to pitch and accredited investor programs, please do visit startupnv.org. End of disclaimer. Our nonprofit work would not be possible without financial help from grants and sponsors like the City of Las Vegas, Clark County, the Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development, or GOED, as we like to call them, the EDA, Bailey, and KPMG. So thanks to all those organizations for their support. So thanks again for everybody for coming out. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. My name's Marcus D'Ambrosio. I'm one of the co-founders of Adaract, where we've developed a high-performance artificial muscle actuator to provide stronger, lighter, and smaller motion solutions. Just to clarify, an actuator is just a device that makes something move, and ours behaves much like a human muscle. So actuators service, a broad and diverse variety of markets. Some of them that I want to point out today are aerospace, robotics, bionics, which is prosthetics, orthotics, exoskeletons, and heavy equipment. So just about any moving component in any of these use cases requires some sort of actuator to move it, essentially. They have a lot of common pain points, being weight, size, and efficiency, with some more edge case ones like fluid movement and cost. So Adaract can address most of these pain points with our proprietary high-performance artificial muscle actuator. Pictured over here has a pretty astounding 20,000 to 1 force to weight ratio, which makes it 5 to 15 times as strong relative to its weight compared to a lot of industry-leading alternatives, among other benefits like fluid movement, leak-free operation, improved efficiency, and we can build these at a very competitive cost. So why is this valuable? I want to use aerospace as an example here because I have a really good story. So in 1987, American Airlines decided that they were going to remove one olive from every one of their in-flight salads. This resulted in them saving about $100,000 a year due to the weight reduction. So if a handful of olives is worth that much, obviously us moving 10, 50, maybe 100 pounds off of an airplane could be huge. And some more up-to-date data says that you're looking at about $2,500 to $7,700 per pound in annual savings in terms of weight reduction, right? But beyond value, why is this important? So the advanced capabilities of our actuator, being stronger, lighter, smaller, among other things, really removes some constraints of the past and hopefully allows technology that we've only dreamt of before. This is kind of like the reason we wake up every day, really, is building the future. So that's what keeps us going. Now, this technology, the basis of it fundamentally has been around for a long time. They're based on something called McKibben muscles that were invented in the 1950s. Over the last 70 years, been a large focus of R&D, still a large focus of R&D, and kind of the current best McKibben muscle style actuators that we've ever found are made by Bridgestone of all people, but still operate under 1000 PSI, and we've never found any that operate at high pressure lasting longer than about 50,000 contractions. That being said, Adaract over the last 3 years has dedicated a ton of time, ton of R&D toward this specific technology. And that's how ours are capable of pretty much operating at over 3 times the pressure and significantly longer than anything else in existence, which really makes them viable in some of the applications I mentioned before. And the reason this is truly is because we've developed some really unique proprietary manufacturing processes. And although this looks extremely simple, each fiber or each actuator is made up of 8 components, for example, all of which could be made of 8 different materials, all of which have 8 different internal features per material, right? When you look at this complexity, there's hundreds of alternatives, and we've essentially engineered one of the best, if not the best combination of all of these to get the performance that we have. But beyond just this, we do have some hard IP, I guess you could say. We have one allowed patent that should actually be fully issued and granted in the next couple of weeks. A utility patent, I should specify. We're filing a second utility patent next month, and then we're filing 2 provisional patents. They're actually pretty much complete. We'll be filing them officially next week. So across all 4 of these inventions, we're relatively broadly defended against any type of competition. So I want to talk a little bit about our history to this point. Kind of our focus to this point has been a really mission-driven proof of concept of the technology in powered prosthetics, which I'll touch on in just a moment, and that we are transitioning into this phase 2 expansion to really high-value markets right now. And in the long term, we still want to maintain a large focus in R&D building world-changing technology, kind of like I just mentioned in a slide, exoskeletons or crazy wingsuits to let people fly and all types of things that we've only been able to dream of using our technology. So as I talked about, our focus to this point, and really what started all of this was a focus in powered lower limb prosthetics. So lower limb prosthetics are severely limiting for the most part for amputees. It can be really challenging getting in and out of chairs, simple tasks that we take for granted every single day. And this is largely due to the lack of power or the lack of actuator technology used in these devices. It's always been inadequate, essentially. And that is what drove Adaract to start creating advanced prosthetic actuators to solve some of these problems. And we built a full proof of concept prototype as a prosthetic device with the actuators, both to gain traction in the industry, but also to validate the viability of this technology. And I'll talk a little bit more about the traction related to this in just a moment. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I do want to clarify that we are not a prosthetic company. We're not building a full prosthetic device and selling a full prosthetic device, but it was our earliest focus. So it's definitely worth noting that there are a handful of other similar technologies either in the market or up and coming in the world of powered prosthetic legs, although none of them can really compare to the capabilities of a human leg. And we strongly believe that a device powered by our actuators and our actuation system is really going to be the first of its kind in competing with the capabilities of a human leg in terms of strength, weight. It can actually operate silently. Your leg doesn't often make crazy noises, a lifelike range of motion, and extreme durability, essentially providing the best alternative to a human body part possible. There's a lot of interest in powered prosthetics right now. We've had a bunch of validation from clinics and amputees alike, but outside of us, there's actually been 2 major partnerships focused on specifically above knee powered prosthetics, kind of the same thing we originally started on just in the last couple of months. So we're obviously in the right direction, on the right path. We're right at the cusp of this industry change. And if we can propose essentially a better performance actuation system to outperform the technology of the competitors here, puts us in a pretty compelling opportunity for a partner with an industry leader. which brings me into our traction, which is mainly focused around prosthetics. So we do have a paid pilot test with a leading prosthetic company. This will generate our first $20,000 of revenue upfront, followed by $8,000 monthly for a minimum of 4 months, but ideally transforming this into a much more meaningful and long-term license and supply contract with this manufacturer for years to come. We're also exploring a kind of early stage partnership and opportunity with a pretty impressive robotics company right now that I won't name specifically. And then we have a couple proposed projects from a small to mid-sized defense company that we're examining at the moment. So obviously our beachhead market in above knee prosthetic actuators isn't anything super notable or impressive, but we do believe it can generate a relatively a decent form of recurring annual revenue in the future. That being said, our broader commercial potential is definitely in the long term going to be aerospace, robotics, heavy equipment, the broader markets there. Our business model is pretty straightforward, mostly custom development and manufacturing, but also licensing and off-the-shelf standardized componentry. We do want to own most of the production here because we can produce these at extremely high margins in certain use cases and generate a lot of value by doing it ourselves. Based on that business model set, we're essentially predicting that we can produce over $150,000 in revenue by the end of this year, turn profitable in 2024, and then exceed $50 million in revenue by 2027 when we get a larger and stronger foothold in the broader markets like aerospace and what else. This would constitute about 25 to 30,000 units sold, which would mean that our technology is relatively scalable and we wouldn't need any relatively massive manufacturing. Just to talk about the team that's going to make it happen, Joe Hill actually graduated just down the road from UNR, if you're in North Reno at least, valedictorian from his College of Engineering up there. Also some experience in large-scale manufacturing, specifically relevant to what we're doing today. Myself, I graduated valedictorian from the University of Utah's College of Engineering. Then I spent some time as CTO in a very early stage ag tech startup company that has since exited. So I'll manage everything non-technical. Joe manages everything technical for the company. Then we also have Francis Buda-Manuel, who's an experienced quality engineer, and Clay Payson, who's an experienced machinist and CNC programmer. And obviously we're a bit of a young and unproven team. But that comes with some benefits. No one here is married and no one here has children, right? But more than anything, we're backed by a pretty fantastic team of advisors as well. Broad variety of disciplines, filling a lot of our knowledge and experience gaps here. So right now we're raising a pre-seed round of about $600,000 for a year of runway. I'm pretty confident we're actually going to close the first $200,000 of this or more next week sometime. And the primary use of funds here is really solidifying our earliest customers, securing that prosthetic license and supply contract, filing a handful of additional patents, and securing some non-dilutive funding for the future as well. So that'll kind of sum up my talk today, but I want to remind everyone we do have a disruptive and defensible technology with a very large market opportunity. We have some early validation with a paid pilot from a leading prosthetic company. This can be very scalable due to the high value manufacturing and licensing potential. Then we have a high performance team backed by some impressive advisors and investors to guide us along the way. So that'll be it for me, and I am happy to answer questions now.
All right, are you actually selling yet, Marcus?
So we are essentially primary focus today, tomorrow would be fundraising, right? As soon as we complete the fundraising, or I don't have to worry as much about making sure we have money, then yes, we will be fully focused on essentially those first sales. The extent of the sales that we've made would be in the form of that paid pilot that I talked about. But in short, not necessarily. That's essentially the next big step.
Thanks a lot. And thanks to our participants and our viewers. Just a few program notes while we wrap up. Investors, if you're curious about how to become an investor, we have 4 opportunities for experienced investors and novice accredited investors. Our pre-seed fund, Fund NV, which is a mutual fund of 20 pre-seed startups, just kind of like the ones you saw here pitching us today. Our annual conference fund, Angel NV, which is going on right now, is sort of a hands-on way to learn how to be an angel investor by looking at companies, again, just like the ones we saw today. And to build a little bit of a social network, either in Vegas or Reno, wherever you are, or throughout the state of Nevada. Our investor syndicate, So they invest in specific single company deals as low as $1,500. And our seed fund, the 1864 fund, which is a $10 million mutual fund of 30 to 40 seed stage, more advanced companies than our pre-seed fund invests in. If you're interested in any of that or want to find out more information, check out our investor page at startupnv.org, and you'll find out more. So we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. We're going to hear from NVIS and SOS, ESOES, SOES. Okay, good. I got you. Until then, take care of yourself, and if you can, someone else too. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.